Hello, I'm Steve Lowry, the Executive Director of AI in BC. That's the Artificial Intelligence Network of British Columbia. And I hope you're very much enjoying the conference so far. What I want to do today is just share some information about what we're doing with AI in the province of BC. And what I can tell you is that AI in BC is the industry body that represents a number of companies, 200 plus companies commercializing AI in the province. And we also work closely with the BC government in terms of growing the sector and academia as we are trending towards creating an institute for AI on the West Coast. And what I can really lay out for you is the background, I guess, as to where BC sits in the larger picture of Canada. As you know, may know, Canada has a long history of strong research in the field of AI, with some globally recognized names such as Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio behind many of the discoveries and research efforts in Canada. Now, where Vancouver comes in BC is on the commercialization of AI in particular. We're quite strong with applied AI, and you see various areas such as robotics and visual computing where a number of companies are commercializing this technology. Looking at some of the strengths we have here, just counting by startups in the country, Vancouver really punches above its weight with the second most number of startups in terms of AI-focused companies in the country, behind Toronto. And much of this has been actually supported by Canada's Digital Technologies Supercluster, which is one of the large entities that the federal government and to some extent provincial government has funded across the country to foster industry in particular areas. And so the digital supercluster is housed in BC. The other superclusters are in fisheries and agriculture, etc. But digital focus is out west, and that has fueled to some extent the growth of a number of AI companies. The supercluster is active in funding things such as AI for health. They just put $60 million into a number of projects to fight COVID over the last year. So lots of activity around that. And another strength or potentially weakness, depending which way you look at it, is the salaries of folks in the tech space in BC. So looking at this graph, you see average cost of a software engineer and versus labor quality. So you're seeing very high quality skills and development abilities in BC, but the cost is low, and so companies globally now, see some sort of real benefits of working with our talent here. I've heard lately things may be changing a bit with COVID in that people are working from home, and we're getting some job offers from many companies around the world, which are pushing up salaries a bit. But nonetheless, there are a million reasons to work with the talent we have in BC, and one of them is the way the labor market is shaped up currently. This talent has been derived from some world-leading universities we have here. UBC and SFU are noted well in their fields, in the top 25 for computer science globally, and high-ranking amongst Canadian universities certainly as well. So graduating thousands of students in these fields, and some top well-known researchers. Recently, Jeff Clune of OpenAI has announced coming to UBC to teach. We have Richard Zhang and a few others as well that you might have heard of. Frank Wood, for example. Moving on to some specific areas that we were particularly strong and noted in BC. Just want to go to kind of walk you through a couple of areas of strength. So health, of course, is quite topical this year, and unfortunately, BC is extremely well positioned with some leading companies in AI for health. On the medical imaging side, MetaOptima diagnoses skin cancer through AI scopes, and very promising growing startup. We have on the drug discovery side, AbCellera has a candidate in the COVID vaccine trials. Case of a fantastically skilled team at a perfectly positioned time working on antibodies using AI to work through where drugs can be applicable with antibodies, and that of course is coming to be very handy this year. Natural language processing is another area where there's a lot going on in the health space, and in BC, OneQubit has a large model, I gather, for helping health practitioners diagnose and work in the health field. On the robotics side, some interesting stories out here in particular. BC has a long strength in computer vision, which is coming to quite an effect in the robotics field. and an interesting company by the name of Sanctuary, which is founded by Jordy Rose, the founder of D-Wave as well, which you may be familiar with in the quantum computing space. But he's created Sanctuary, which is basically creating, legit Android robots that are kind of humanoid in their their form factor. And it's based on an interesting sort of premise that, if you expect computers to work and operate in our world in a way that helps humans, it's best to actually put them in the form of a human to learn the world that we've created. It's of course created for humans. And that's how we learn, through iteration and exploring. And so putting a computer in that form factor is an interesting way to develop that feedback loop. Other companies in this space are A&K Robotics and AIS, Advanced Intelligence Systems, which both make robots for the industrial spaces. AIS makes sort of custom robots for factory floors. A&K Robotics, janitorial robots for large spaces like airports, for example. Looking at a couple other areas, we have real strength around a number of fintech companies. FinAI is globally recognized as creating chatbots that financial institutions and banks can use with clients around the world. Security, we have Avigilon, was recently purchased by Motorola, and they make security cameras leveraging AI. And we've had some real breakthroughs recently in the science on the agricultural side with Terramera. They are basically helping reduce the amount of pesticides needed for growing crops by basically managing those crops better using AI and focusing, narrowing in the amount of pesticides needed where it's most needed, using imaging to determine those areas rather than just kind of blanketing the field. So some really good strides made there and technical advances. So some very exciting companies we have here, honestly, and many of them looking to partner and sell their technologies, or for that matter, raise funding from partners around the world. So certainly invite you to come and interact with these companies and get to know them. And one of the best ways to do that, in fact, is to join us at our conference this year, December 9th and 10th, a virtual conference called Crossover AI. And it's a great way to connect with all the various enterprises and startups working in the AI space, as well as government. And we have a whole networking component to this conference as well, the two-day conference with some fantastic panels and speakers. And as a final note on that, if you're an investor looking to invest in some of BC's best AI startups, they will be pitching at what we're calling Launchpad during the crossover event. And this is taking our startups and matching them with global investors that may be interested in this space. So I invite you to come out for that and connect, and please reach out at any point. Happy to fill you in on what else is happening here in BC. You've got my email contact there, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with you. All the best.